Alright everyone, Supreme Kami over here. So now it is time to do some alterations over here. So I am gonna do a breakdown of both of them definitely. So I'm gonna be doing the AZ first and then we'll be going over to the Aegis Knight. So before doing that, let me actually go over this week's build project pilots up here and see if any of you guys are actually interested into this one. So in terms of this build project pilot, this one is definitely a very unique one from definitely something we have not really seen before. Reasons I say that because in terms of the secondary portrait, we have something called the initial squad charged up by 18%. So this is gonna be effective throughout your whole squad. So one of your battle members just have to have this equipped and just have it active, and then the overall squad will be able to gain the 18% at max out obviously. So we are starting out at 8%, which I think 8% is definitely not going to be getting it. So you guys can definitely use those AI CPU to kind of get those portrait up to, I don't know, maybe like, I want to say 25 is definitely a good range. So if you equip multiple, I believe we do have some other parts that have the initial squad charged up. So this is definitely going to be for someone that wants to use this in, let's say, arena specifically, like the League Arena 3v3. I think this is going to be the most effective one to be using if you want your overall squad to gain some initial charge boosting. Definitely really good. So this one is not a really supporting type pilot, but this one is the defender, which is not that bad because you definitely don't want yourself to be taking too much damage in a way. So this is not bad for, say, projectile mobility, so not too much to kind of complain right there. So this is definitely a full supportive like a pilot right there. So even if you see all these stats right here, I don't see too much of a purpose of having that much of a high stat right there. If you talk about having like oh, I want a double power boosting or that type of gimmick, this is definitely not something for you to kind of get, I say. But you also do get all power boosting when attacking physical, so I mean there's definitely going to be goods and bads, but this one is entirely depends on like how much you want to like play League and trying to have those initial charge boosting. If you don't really need that, this is definitely a hot skill for sure, and you guys can definitely wait until next month for like another build project right there. So defender and outfighter, so those are going to be the two job lessons. If you can fulfill those, or you feel like the portrait is something you need, definitely get that. But if not, definitely I would say hold up onto it. This is not the pilot you guys would want it for. So okay, so moving back to the AZ Gundam, so I was actually like looking over the stats and then looking over the portrait. The AZ Gundam, or the Amazon Prime Gundam, as I would like to call it, it's actually not that bad. So let me actually go over some highlight part that I think is actually really good for alteration. So definitely, I think my top pick for alteration on the spot is definitely going to be the Twin Hyper Mega Rifle. This one over here. This one is definitely going to be the top. Oh, it's a launcher, not rifle. This one's definitely the top choice if you guys are able to get that. This one's definitely top tier. The saber, the twin saber is definitely good as well, and then the right or the arm. I think those are definitely the top three parts that I say. All right, those are definitely some parts to be targeting for, say, whenever we are able to pick them up with tickets like, I don't know, like a few months later down the line. So let me actually start things out by going over the rifle. So let me switch over to the rifle tab first. So in terms of rifle, don't expect too much of like, oh, the highest stat for example. So you are going to be looking down right here. So the highest one we have right now is 17.7k, while this one is only at 16.9k. I think this one is probably the best rifle to be looking at. Not only are you gonna get some defenses, a slight defense, which is like kind of whatever. Flat stat is 16.4k, which is like, I guess you can compare that to some other one, like you can call this kind of mid tier, like mid anyway. But in terms of overall portrait, this is where the big money is. Like after you perform alteration, you are gonna get a buff EX effects up by 30%. Which this is probably one of the first true, I don't know like the first true one, but this to me personally, I feel like this is one of like a big stepping mile in terms for like a shooting based unit. Because in terms of shooting based unit, I feel like we definitely lacks in terms of buff skill effects. So this one, having it on the rifle is definitely really good. So when you do have it under the mid shooter job, then you can get the EX skill power as well. So this is definitely the best combo for you to deal the most amount of damage, because I have explained it multiple times already. Buff EX skill effects pairing up with EX skill that has a built-in attack buffer that will allow you to carry out what kind of attacks that like way higher than just having like a normal shooting power boosting or even like a EX skill power boosting. So this one definitely top tier. If you guys are able to put a rifle, this is a must alterate on the spot. Don't even think about it, alterate it. I guess the only downside to that is the typing tech attribute, which we probably have like a ton already just looking down the roster, so you guys don't even see damage shooting based unit in a way. I'm not talking, I won't count the build project one like these one right here. Definitely won't be counting those. Like, we don't really have that many, so that's kind of unfortunate, but top tier right there. Moving on over to the saber category one, this is definitely the hot pick for sure. In terms of this specifically for your shooting, so we got a flat out like 3.7k, so definitely really good. Like amongst one of the higher one, if you want to compare that, so definitely not bad. Ace is also high firepower for both this one and then rifle, which I didn't talk about. So in terms of overall portrait, don't even have to say anything. One split for EXQ and shooting, definitely top tier. So you guys are able to pull the beam saber, the dual saber, definitely all traded, just way too good to not use it. In terms of the arm is definitely very unique because this is our first time having an initial charge boosting on the arm. So and plus this is actually one of the highest currently to this date, one of the highest one we were looking at. So definitely not going to be a bad option if you do want to alterate it. One thing to kind of keep that in mind, yes, this one you have to use it on high firepower, which some of you may not use, may use Ace exclusive Gundam type, as well as let's say, I don't know, like Gundam type per se. So secondary portrait, this is where the problem is going to come in. So this one's going to be effective only for beam EX skill base. So any physical shot or like your normal physical attacks, yeah, they're not gonna gain the EX skill power boosting. So that's kind of unfortunate. So looking at base, we're starting at 15%, so that is already strong. So if you pair up another one with that, I think another one you guys can be looking at if you want to have it, like let's say you only have it base level 1 and then you're not quite enough to get like a cutscene EX skill to kind of get up and going. Another one you can definitely consider is definitely the Wing Zero. I think these two, like this two right here, some initial charge boosting starting at 15, and then you plus the arm, you're looking at 30% already. So once you at 30%, you can basically kind of start out any cutscene EX skill, like the 30-second cooldown one, like the first time usage, like no problem. So that's that. I think even for ranged weaponry, we definitely have a few. I don't know, let me see. I think down the roster we have something. Do we have something here? I thought we do, but I guess I'm overlooking it. Or I think it's actually the melee category, right? We have these right here, you know, some initial charge boosting. So we definitely have quite a lot in terms of like having some initial charge boosting, but the arm part is definitely first. So that is a hot choice right there. If you guys are lacking an arm or just lacking, you know, initial charge boosting in general, this is definitely the part you want to be going for. Just do keep that in mind. The condition can be a little bit harsh in terms of how you look at that, but all in all, I do feel like it's definitely a good stepping, like a new like a stepping stone per se for like just some initial charge boosting, just for players who may not be able to get up to like a good starting point. This one in conjunction with the other ones is definitely top tier. So alright, so those are going to be my 3 recommendations in terms of like, I think they're the pinnacle of like this overall set. So moving back to the head part, so in terms of AZ head, I don't think there's really that much to kind of mention here. I can say that the armor is pretty high for a shooting based unit, so that is definitely something not to kind of sleep on per se. In terms of overall portrait, I think this one is definitely a very harsh one. This one is just a double shooting, like a regular double shooting power boosting with a 30 to 35 split, so definitely not your 40%. So they don't usually put multiple 40%, so this one is probably going to be a hot skip, because if you take a look at the second beam, we already do have something similar, so I wouldn't be going for that. Locking to middle shooter as well as using beam specifically, so I feel like the condition of this one is just too much, and I would say don't even alterate it. Just probably not. Just not a good choice with there. Moving on to the chest. This is packing some pretty high armor right there. For a shooting based unit, this is definitely one of the rare cases where they want to pack some enormous amount of armor. So definitely not something to sleep on for sure. And then in terms of overall, like where we're setting at, it's gonna be right here, so it's not too bad. EX skill or the portrait as well, this is actually not bad. Like if you take a look at the overall suit of AZ, it's actually not even that bad because they're definitely packing a lot of, let's say, like double power boosting, which is definitely really good. But it's unfortunate right now we are in the middle of like having 40% trait already, so I'd rather like reserve like whatever upgrading material I have into those 40% traits instead of like spending it over here. Like this one is gonna start out at what, 1720, which is definitely falling behind compared to the 40% trade starting out at 25 per bolt. So I mean, like if you have what like this really depends on like what you really have. Like if you don't have those 40% one, you guys can definitely wait. I gotta say, like you don't have to have everything on day one, right? But just it's good, you know, definitely good. But I wouldn't really waste my resources on this one over here. So the condition is not even that bad. Like just having 10,000 per both defenses, I think you can definitely get to that because this overall unit just packs some pretty good defensive stat as well. So there should be no problem even getting the melee defense up to 10k at all. So alright, this is pretty good. But in terms of alterating it, if you do have the 40% trade version of it, I don't think there's a need for that. So alright, going over to the leg. The leg, oh, look at his armor. Like, like I don't know what they're thinking, like, but they're definitely packing some high armor into this guy right here. So in terms of the legs, so we have transformers. So this one is definitely a transformable unit, so there's no doubt they would put that in there. Even having that, I mean, like transformer is definitely one of that war tag that is really weird. It's not it's boosting shooting, but it's not really at the same time, because in terms of the shot defense up by 10%, you don't actually get that included into the very last calculation. So you're not really taking that much advantage of, let's say, the change gear when you take a portion of your shot defensive value and translate a little bit of that into your shot attack. So this one, applying that last is not really that helpful in terms of how the game actually calculate the portrait or the war tag wise over here. So even though it's kind of boosting your melee or your shot in a way, but it's not really affecting your overall like shot attack at the end of the day. So it's good and bad, but definitely in terms of it for a melee build, it's definitely good. It's definitely workable because you are getting that 5%. But in terms of for a shooting, I definitely have my reserve for that. Definitely not a good pickup for sure. So this one, wow. So we have a initial, we have EXQ reduced by 20%. One of those right there. So this one is only at 20%. So we have already seen some that goes up to like maybe 23% and then 40% power boosting. So this one is definitely not for a good pickup per se, because we already do have better options already. So if you guys do have delay, I would say don't alterate it, because we already do have some better options. And I feel like in terms of investing for your initial just for your EXQ reduced build, CD build, this is definitely not the best way to go around that. Having welfare or standard part are definitely a better alternative in a way. Alright, so next part we have the backpack. So in terms of backpack, I don't really have it. So me personally, I didn't really test out the Amazon Prime Cannon mode right here. So for what I heard from people, like if you do have it maxed to level 10, for example, this one in the slightest chance this kind of rival up to the standard part Rampage Gundam chest EXQ Scramble Gundam EXQ Rampage. But I feel like most people would probably have this one at base level 1. So in terms of how effective this one is, I don't think it's going to be that good in a way, depending on what kind of like setup you're looking at. I still think that the standard part, the Rampage EXQ, is 10 times better than this one. Just how many this one is that one is doing compared to this one. But if you guys do have it, I mean, this have some pretty nice opening animation, but other than that, not really that good of a EXQ. So but I believe if you don't alterate it, you're only looking at a B power. So if you do alterate it, you can definitely gain a little bit more power to that. So that is definitely going to be up to you. But in terms of the stat, what we're looking at, the stat is actually not that high. And war tag wise, you do have transformer as well. So I don't really like say it's kind of good. So definitely maybe a skip in a way because of the war tag condition. But other than that, in terms of EXQ, I don't really have too much of a say because I never actually tested out myself. In terms of how effective, like I said, Rampage is probably a little bit better than this one over here. So yeah. Alright, moving on to the Twin Hyper Mega Launcher. So this one is a detached one. So this one also do have another one of that EXQ, and it's pretty much going to be like a straightforward beam attack. So not anything going to be spectacular, obviously. So not really too much to talk about right there. So this one, This one I wouldn't really alterate it just because this one in terms of like a range weaponry for a shooting based unit, that's probably one of the most important items to be looking at. So if you guys can avoid it, definitely avoid these types right here. So definitely go for the other version, the couple if possible, if you guys are able to pull that. But other than that, if you guys are able to get that, I wouldn't really alterate it just because in terms of EXQ, it's not really that great looking. It's just a really like generically plain EXQ. So yeah, so we already have gone over the rifle mode. That one is probably the better one of the two, definitely. So moving down to the shield as the last part to be going over. In terms of the shield for your shooting base is definitely not one of the highest one on the list, and this one does have an EXQ, which like I think like majority of them does actually have it. So in terms of this EXQ, it's gonna be the unlimited saber. So this one actually does have some melee attack buffing over here, so it is gonna support a little bit of that, enormously raising your melee attack if you do have some buff EXQ effects. So definitely nice right there. But other than that, like if you do, I think you do have to alterate it to get some good stat, right? I do have it, so that's why. Let me see. You don't. I would have to say like you don't really need to alterate it because B minus powers to be sufficient enough already. I don't really see this EXQ to do like really good damage either way. So if you don't alterate it or you want to alterate it simply for the stat stacking, definitely go for that. So but other than that, that's gonna be pretty much it in terms of the A to Z Gundam Alteration over here. Definitely there's some really highlighting part which I've pretty much gone over at the beginning of the video, but in terms of all the other one, they're just kind of like they're kind of there. Like they're not like the best, they're not like the worst. Like we already do have better versions of those parts already. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it. So do let me know how do you guys feel about the alteration for the A to Z Gundam. So with that being said, I'll catch you guys all on the next one.